Strive for Franz. What has been going on with you lately? Why have you fallen so far behind in your studies? Before Franz could open his mouth, his mother, Princess Sophie of Bavaria, had already begun her outburst. This was the aftermath. As time went by, the facade of Franz as the obedient child also began to crumble, with his declining grades being one aspect of it. I regret to say, respected Madame Sophie, that the curriculum you have arranged for me exceeds my capacity. There are so many among the European nobility. Who has as heavy a workload as I do? Franz questioned. Franz, are you accusing me of mistreating you? Madame Sophie asked with a sullen expression. Respected Madame Sophie, I mean no accusation, but you are also aware of how heavy my coursework is. Human energy is limited, and with so many subjects, I simply don't have enough study time. Now I must also participate in military training. A slide in grades is inevitable. The best solution would be to cut some unnecessary courses so that I can improve my performance, Franz argued confidently. Is that so, Franz? You think you've grown up, your wings have hardened, and you can disregard your mother's words? Princess Sophie said with a cold laugh. Franz realized he was in trouble. It seemed he had still underestimated a mother's desire to control. Often when one believes they are acting in their children's best interests, they will persist without regard for anything else, and convincing her at such times is no easy task. But now he couldn't show weakness, or else the days ahead would only become more difficult. Franz spoke earnestly. Respected Madame Sophie, as the heir to the Austrian Empire, the knowledge I need to learn is different from that of ordinary people. You are trying to raise an imperial emperor, not a scholarly academic. Are these numerous complex courses useful for governing the country? If you think I am being lazy, you can try it yourself. I currently have 28 courses, and I also have 2 hours of military training every day. Princess Sophie fell into deep thought. This was European education in a nutshell, where talking back to parents was a common affair, and as long as one had a point, parents would usually accept it. Even though the times were not very enlightened, and the mainstream educational model was still about raising obedient workers, a necessity for the ruling class, Franz, as the crown prince, had no one daring to demand that he suppress his thoughts. The enduring success of European nobility is actually inseparable from their education. Despite usually being politically conservative out of interest, when it comes to their children's education, the European nobility has always been very progressive. After a short while, Madame Sophie seemed to accept Franz's argument, but the doubts in her heart were not dispelled, and she asked in return, "What do you plan to do?" Franz spoke earnestly. Respected Madame Sophie, I am already 16 years old. I am no longer a child. I am very clear about what I am doing now, and I understand what I need to do. Theoretical knowledge is not equivalent to the real world. From childhood, I have lived within the palace, and everything I have seen and come to know is what you think I should see. Yet there are too many doubts and gaps within this. You must be aware that my tutors are often rendered speechless by my questions. How this world really operates and what the current state of the Austrian Empire is, I am completely ignorant. If I don't go out and see the true state of this country, in the future I can only learn from my uncle and be content as a puppet emperor. Princess Sophie's complexion turned drastically. Franz was making a silent accusation. Still, born of the royal family, she quickly suppressed her anger and said, Franz, do not forget you are only 16 years old. There's plenty of time to understand this country. What you need most now is to study. Franz shook his head and said gravely, No, Madam Mother, I do not have as much time as you think. By the time you believe I can understand this country, I will no longer be able to see its true state. The bureaucrats have their ways, allowing me to see only what they want me to see, while the real societal situation is beyond my grasp. Franz, you are too suspicious. The world isn't as bad as you think. If you wish to understand the world, you can simply read the newspapers, said Princess Sophie, her face pale. Mother, do not forget that being suspicious is a basic quality of a competent monarch. As for newspapers, are you not aware of the Austrian censorship system? Franz retorted. To understand the world by reading newspapers? Franz instantly thought of that person who was deceived by the newspapers, ending up utterly disgraced. Could such a thing happen in Austria? Franz dared not conclude, but printing a newspaper was trivial for interest groups if needed. The two locked eyes, neither willing to yield, and a standoff ensued. After a moment, Franz took the initiative to ease the tension. Respected Madame Sophie, have you noticed that today the Germany region's agriculture is underperforming? I know a little, but what does that have to do with you? Madame Sophie asked, puzzled. Franz shook his head and said, "It has nothing to do with me now, but it will in the future. The Germany region's crop failure signifies a decline in the local people's standard of living. Should the government handle it poorly, it might very well ignite a revolt. Even though such revolts would be quickly suppressed, and the news might not even reach Vienna, the conflict between the lower classes and the government is intensifying. No problems will surface in the short term, but as time goes on, disaster-stricken people will have to enter cities to make a living, providing the bourgeoisie with cheaper labor. Austria might even become more prosperous, but the contradictions are continually growing. One day in the future, they could detonate. Just think of the French Revolution." "Franz, you are being alarmist," Madame Sophie exclaimed, pale-faced. "No, I am not," Franz said solemnly. "Respected Madame Sophie, I have studied the French Revolution. In 1788, a drought occurred in France, resulting in a drop in French grain production, which led to hardship for ordinary people. The contradictions between the bourgeoisie and the nobility escalated, much like the current opposition between the reformist and conservative factions in our country. In the end, the government representing noble interests sparked the tinder by taxing the bourgeoisie, and the French Revolution erupted, bringing an end to the Bourbon dynasty." "Are you suggesting that a revolution could break out in Austria?" "Franz, do you think I would believe that?" Madame Sophie said angrily. Franz shook his head and said, "Respected Madame Sophie, this is just my preliminary assessment. Whether a revolution will break out in Austria, I cannot yet conclude, for I have too little information. I need to understand more intelligence to make a judgment. I believe this topic is far more important than a pile of schoolwork. As the crown prince of the empire, it is necessary for me to grasp the true state of this ancient empire."